All right, welcome in. Thank you so much for this is Dump Your Toxic Bucket. It's a step-by-step approach for healing gut, brain, autoimmune, and mystery symptoms. And we're going to get into the content. So let me go ahead and share my screen. This is just a quick disclaimer. This is for educational purposes only. And so please consult a practicing physician, licensed provider before doing anything on this webinar. And the quality and quantity of my health and coaching services are not dependent on any product or service. So the state of health or the state of disease is the combination between what we are, meaning our genetics, what makes us engineered the way we are, and the environment around us. And the gut is at the point of entry in between these two, where these two elements meet. So here's the thing. There's some good news. If you've been dismayed by the conventional healthcare in this country, or your health has taken a turn for the worse and you don't know why all the things you used to do that worked aren't working, you're in the right class. And if you, like myself and many people I talk to, are totally raw with the amount of advice giving and health information that's coming at us daily, and you want a simple solution that has a process, you're totally in the right class. And if your chronic gut or brain or autoimmune symptoms have worsened despite the number of practitioners you've seen, you're in the right class because um, you know that one and done doesn't exist. There's not one pill, there's not one supplement, or even one specialist that's going to solve any of your ongoing health challenges, or you wouldn't be here. And that's why I focus on foundational work. And it's a personalized system because we look at your genes, but also you're going to learn about the ebb and flow of your own body and finally take some control and become the best practitioner, which if you look in the mirror, it's you. So you're not going to keep looking for the next specialist, doctor, naturopath who's going to magically heal you. You're going to have the answers to go move forward to make the best calls for your health. And that's what I'm really interested in, is providing a safe space, the right tools, and guiding people towards becoming their own CEO of their own health. So you get to dump your toxic bucket and say goodbye to gut issues, bloating, fatigue, food sensitivities, skin conditions, low metabolism, smooth out your hormonal imbalances, any autoimmune symptoms, or if you're on the autoimmune spectrum, and get some sleep. Um, and so in this webinar, I'm going to address the issues that are really below the surface, the root causes that are the physical things that are blocking your natural expression of health. 90% of any chronic issue is driven by the exposome or the environment, whether it's outside of us or the environment that's going on inside of us. So it's not just about treating illness anymore. It's about prevention, early detection, and personalized care. This is the future of medicine. And this is something that you can share with friends and family. So it doesn't matter if you tried a bunch of solutions before or you've been let down, you're going to discover the latest in gut brain science today. I'm so excited. So you can go from dreaming about how good you can feel to actually living it and have the peace and energy to live out your purpose. That's what I want for everyone on this planet. That's my mission. So who needs gut repair? Here are some things that I highlighted today, given it's a gut brain autoimmune talk. But let me know in the chat, if you are experiencing any of these dysfunctions, um, or, have any of these issues. Because your genes and your terrain need to come first. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So in the shop, we've had clients definitely come through with brain fog, definitely report mood issues and mood swings, thyroid disorders, um, RA, MS, lupus, neurological symptoms, celiac disease, and the Crohn's and colitis. So these, like I mentioned, are some gut and brain and autoimmune. So I'm just here to tell you that it's not okay. It's, if you've got any of these issues, um, it's just a friendly reminder that even if you have low energy or brain fog or constipation or joint pain or getting sick every season, um, it's not okay. And you can absolutely work to fix this. So I saw a little bit in chat. Let me see. So my mom's got something similar to fibromyalgia, but it's not diagnosed. It's inflammation, joint pain, constipation, all the things. Okay, yes. Thank you, Regan. And it's zero fun, Terry. So here's a hint, what I'm going to get into today, that mental health, neurodegenerative disease, autoimmune, and mystery symptoms like not being diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but having a fibromyalgia type issue, it's the symptoms, all of these are all related. And I'm going to get into that today. So you are in good hands. At the end of today, I will stay back and hang out and answer any questions. And I will also show you how to work with me. And if that sounds good, I'm here for it. And so I'm Taylor, and I serve natural health seekers to uncover the root cause of their chronic gut brain symptoms fast without drugs. And so I'm a board certified health and wellness coach, nationally board certified, and a certified functional nutritional counselor, and also an adjunct instructor through UCSD's extension teaching health coach trainees. And I love it. And I've worked with and continue to work with naturopath, doctors, specialists, practitioners, all to garner the best of the best so I can be your best guide. That's my goal. So we're going to cover two things today. The missing first step in your mystery gut brain autoimmune issues, and why the mitochondria, which you may be hearing about, and the microbiome, which has been around for a few years now, are replacing other organ topics like adrenal fatigue, brain health, and thyroid. And so these organs are all secondary to the microbiome and the mitochondria. We're going to talk about that today, and how to address them step by step. So I don't know how it is for you, Terry, in your part of the world, but in Southern California, we are full of a bunch of biohackers. So um, uh, people have been coming in the shop for 7 years, and we have very savvy clients. So longevity, biohacking, people have done the methane blue, acromantia, nitric oxide, peptides, exosomes, plant-based stem cells. Like my mom goes down to Tijuana for her exosomes, and probiotics, hyperbaric oxygen chamber, cold plunges, NAD plus injections, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, and PRP, neurofeedback. I mean, like, we are a mecca down in San Diego. And so what I'm here to say is, if you're doing these things, don't stop doing it. I'm drinking my hydrogen-rich water. But something is missing. So if you're a biohacker, keep listening. If you have relied on the conventional care, the average conventional care consult is now at 6 minutes. And if you're taking a medication for chronic disease or autoimmunity, remember, it's not just about managing your symptoms anymore, but getting to the root of your symptoms so that you can have a better expression of your health, vibrant health for a lifetime. And so the future of medicine is personalized, preventative, and has a predictive approach. I know how frustrating it is. This is me with Malaysia fungus coming out my scalp. I had to go to urgent care on my Hawaiian vacation because I thought I had an ear infection, but really it was systemic fungus overgrowing called SIFO that traveled from my gut to my brain and out my ears and out my scalp, which corresponded with my SIBO. If anybody, if you know what that is, it's small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And my friends, this wasn't even the end of my issues. Uh, Fatty liver, hypothyroid, weight gain, autoimmunity spectrum, food sensitivities, fatigue. You'll find that when your gut goes off, symptoms snowball. And the way through is what I'm going to share with you today. It's both prevention and treatment. So if you're seeing improvement in your health, whether that's through conventional medications or care, treatment providers, biohacking, don't stop, but you may be missing something. And it's this: poor gut and microbiome health are linked to every form of chronic issue, even if you don't have obvious digestive symptoms. I hear it from clients where it's like they have the worst brain diagnoses and processes, and they want to look at their gut the least. um, because they're like, I don't have constipation. No, I go to the bathroom every day. I'm fine. So the microbiome connection is connected to hormones, autoimmune spectrum, chronic pain, metabolic syndrome, mood disorders, neurodegenerative diseases, detox capacity, skin conditions, and more. This is why long-term restrictive diets, harsh killing protocols, and your supplement graveyard that's hanging out in your cabinet can don't work or do more harm than good. So you're going to find out the real root causes of poor gut and microbiome health and how to build a resilient gut and microbiome so that you can start to feel the benefits of getting back to health. So this is in my course, this slide. Clients always love it. It's always so fun to do this in group. But let's think back to 170 years ago and think about how many daily toxins there were. Okay, so you're in this home, you wake up and you maybe use activated charcoal or some twigs to like clean your teeth. Maybe you make a fire. Maybe you make your bed out of that was made out of cotton, or you're wearing cotton pajamas. You may go out to your get eggs from your chickens that are free range, or maybe you had some bacon from your neighbor's pig, fresh milk from the grass-fed cows, biscuits made with flour without glyphosate and other pesticides, no DDT on crops, no BPA in water bottles, no antibiotics in the meats. So our immune systems were designed to kill bugs, bacteria, mold, viruses, fungi, but not all the rest of the chemical onslaught that we have daily. So now think about, like, I was talking to my colleague who's a naturopathic doctor, and she was like, oh my God, Taylor, I love this. Just waking up in the morning, what mattress are we on? Then we step on maybe some carpet, or we go to the bathroom and we brush our teeth, we wash our face with whatever else we're washing. This is like minute 2. We haven't even gotten to the kitchen yet. We haven't gotten to the shower yet. And so you can just imagine for a second what the difference is. And so I'm passing no judgment, because this is something that's happened to us, right, over the years. And Regan, I know you would appreciate this. This stat, like was wild to me, that there's been a 52% reduction in wildlife on the planet from 1970 to 2010, and this is from the World Wildlife Fund. Um, like freshwater species have suffered in decline with a 76 drop in population size. And and so when people are saying that detoxing is just another way to sell some sort of product, I just think of our environment and I think about this analogy or our oxidized coral reefs or um, and we're just living in a toxic soup that our bodies were never designed for. So here's some fun facts, quick. The new research I promised on my email for IBS is this, that did you know that 60% of IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, it's a syndrome, meaning there's many inputs, is due to food poisoning? Yep. So if you went on a tropical vacation to Mexico, you may have come back with more than just a sunburn. E. coli and Klebsiella, which are pathogenic bacteria, are the root of IBS for 60% of people. So this is coming from Dr. Mark Pimentel, and he's also a SIBO researcher. And it's really interesting that infections can lead to chronic syndromes or symptoms that most people think IBS is still a mental health issue or created from stress. But actually, it's a chronic infection. What about molds and genetics? So while most molds are completely harmless, I'm not gonna vilify like molds and fungi. They do so much for us on our planet, but some release microscopic chemicals known as mycotoxins that can be harmful for human health. And there's about 14 that we can test for. But basically, they produce these chemicals as a defense mechanism and they contaminate our air, surfaces, and food. And when they enter our body, they can potentially cause a whole host of issues. And so the first thing you need to know is that 25%, a quarter of the human population on planet Earth, doesn't make antibodies needed to deactivate mold and toxic chemicals, and they're toxic chemicals called mycotoxins from the body. So these chemicals just recirculate in the body, creating absolute havoc, compromising your body's ability to detoxify. That's why it's a major problem, is that it actually inhibits the detoxification process. And so they just hang out, these toxins in the liver and the GI tract and the kidneys and the lymphatic system. So this is why one person in a family of four can have mild to severe issues with mold in the home while others don't. But more often than not, Dr. Campbell, who's a preeminent mold doctor, treats whole families because he finds that it's a genetic component. So in our course, we test for functional genes, and I look for this HLA type, and this human leukocyte antigen is what, if it's impaired genetically, then you struggle with detoxing mold. Okay, so here's the thing. Inflammation is driven by these four things. If I could just tell everybody on every street corner this about health, this is what I would say. Chronic infections, so like your E. coli or Klebsiella or certain viruses, environmental toxins like molds, nutrient deficiencies, and leaky gut and dysbiosis are what's driving this inflammation. So if you have the joint issues, the chronic pain, the inflammation in the body, and you don't know why, you may want to look here. It's this whole toxic bucket theory. And the idea is that genetically, it determines how big our toxic bucket is. So some people, like I joke, I'm like, might have a dump truck of a toxic bucket and they can handle all these things and they detox just fine. And then other people have a toxic bucket the size of a teacup. And we need to dump the toxic bucket or trash out more often with more regularity. And so a healthy bucket is, normally functions able to process the toxins and illnesses without being overwhelmed. You have some tolerance in there. But as it keeps getting filled, if the bucket starts to overflow and your body can't release these toxins, which, are infections, the mold, the poor gut health, the Lyme, or inflammation or chronic stress, then you get all these symptoms like digestive issues, constipation, chronic fatigue, headaches, the migraines, the food sensitivities, where it's like you start limiting all your foods. You're like, what is going on? Weight gain or loss, depression, and anxiety. So here's why is that the gut is tied. See all these green lines here? This is all tied to the vagus nerve, which is the largest nerve in the human body, and it goes up to the brain. So the gut is essentially tied to the brain via the vagus nerve. And the coolest statistic is that it's a super highway of communication between the gut and the brain, but guess what? 90% of the communication is actually from the gut to the brain and not from the brain to the gut. So, does this mean that the gut is determining 90% of what's going on in the brain? Believe it or not, Dr. Stephen Gundry, in his book, The Gut-Brain Paradox, that actually just came out this year, believes that to be a fair estimate, which means leaky gut toxins can seep through the blood-brain barrier and send a message that you're under attack. And so what happens that the blood-brain barrier becomes more permeable and the entire nervous system becomes more inflamed, and that results in the neurodegenerative diseases along with anxiety and the mood disorders. That's why your brain gets on fire, and that's why we need to calm what's going on in the gut and the inflammation there so that it calms the nervous system and calms what's going on in the brain. So research, the new gut brain research it actually has only really scratched the surface, but we're beginning to understand how the gut is at the root of neuroinflammation and why it is causing the mental and cognitive issues that we see so prevalent in our society. So what symptoms do you have here? These are the long-term problems. So I know from class, let's see if it's the chronic infection illnesses. I'm not seeing the chronic pain here. Chronic fatigue, low energy, chronic pain. There it is, the second one, inflammation. Okay, so this is where poor gut and microbiome health, it's tied here. So again, this is what neuroinflammation is caused by. These things. So the first step is to dump your toxic bucket. So you could be like Monica, where you finally get your neurotransmitters in range. This was her lab before the course and then her lab after the course. See all these nice neurotransmitters in range. So neurotransmitter is simply a chemical that allows neurons to communicate with each other in the brain. And so we're going to talk about how the microbiome and the mitochondria are really driving this up in the brain. So what happens when you fix your health? So this is me at the edge of the Marlborough Sounds and South Island of New Zealand. So natural and Western medicine hasn't caught up yet. So if you're doing a good job eating organic, um, and doing all the right things, let's look at the microbiome and the mitochondria, um, because it's not all about the probiotics that you're taking. Okay. So why other detox cleanses don't work or haven't worked for you in the past is that they are not looking at your detox genes. They're not supporting excretion. I just had a client this last week that had to be hospitalized due to constipation. And so it's so important. This was not during the course. They don't support excretion. They don't replenish energy, mitochondrial support. They don't use effective binders, and they don't break up stones and sluggish bile. So we can't talk about microbes without talking about the mitochondria in our cells. And these are old. They're basically have bacterial roots and DNA like our gut buddies. And our gut microbiome tells how much energy the mitochondria need to put out. So without energy, you're dead. The brain uses 70% of our ATP that we create. Hence all this issues with brain dysfunction. So 90% of your energy comes from these little cell factories called mitochondria. And so I'm going to speak to a little analogy. Let's imagine that there's a blackout in our town for a couple weeks, and you have to use candles to walk around your place. There are no police, there is no garbage collection, and there's no power to protect yourself as well. So you're susceptible to infections, the garbage is not getting taken out. So your cells then get on standby and they power off. So if you eat too much food like fats and sugars, you're going to stress out your mitochondria and you're going to make a lot more garbage, and that's going to make the kitchen dirty. And if you don't have enough dietary cofactors like vitamin B, then the cells won't generate enough energy and it will actually reverse the entire process for you. And so the mitochondrial decline will be the rise in loss of the garbage collection. And fatigue is one of the main signs of a damaged mitochondria. If you have frequent low energy, you might have a degree of dysfunction of mitochondria. And when ATP drops, which is the energy, it also decreases methylation, which I know Regan knows about. And it's a topic that I discuss in the course. So that's the main thing is I love this analogy too. It's like, what is causing or damaging mitochondria? What are the upstream sources? Think about this hand model. What's upstream from the mitochondria? It's going to be these chronic infections, these environmental toxins, the nutrient deficiencies, and this stressed gut. So chronic stress, gut infections, environmental toxins, food sensitivities, poor sleep, even aging, this is all causing issues to your mitochondria. Sorry, I got to plug in here. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I'm just going to speak to the microbiome for a second. And then I'm going to show you basically how to clear and remove what's causing the upstream issues in 6 steps. So just like we've done with environmental rainforests, we have decimated our guts. And what's so crazy is that there are about 25,000 human genes. There are 3.3 microbial genes in our body. And so our human gut microbiome is the second genome of the human body. It's like who's running who. Um, And so this microbiome is bacteria, it's yeast, it's viruses that live in the gut. And when they're in balance, that's great. But if they're out of balance, that's where they can cause a whole host of issues. Um, so 70% of our immune system resides right outside of our gut. And so when it's off, this is where you have all these downstream issues when it gets unbalanced. So gut dysbiosis is at the root of the neurological, neurodegenerative, psychiatric, and many other types of disease. So you need a diverse, healthy microbiome in balance to stay in health. And it's hard in today's age because our topsoils are completely decimated. There's 10,000 chemicals that are banned in Europe that exist here in the US. We've got cell phones, radioactive elements, Bluetooth, and not to mention the antibiotics, the PPIs, the glyphosates, the endocrine disruptors, the plastics, the sleep aids. And so they drive our good gut buddies down, and then our bad gut buddies are calling the shots. And um, 95% of total body serotonin, which is the neurotransmitter, our happy hormone for regulating mood, is actually produced and stored in the gut. So when we have too many toxins and our microbiome gets off balance, then the healthy gut looks great here, but the leaky gut, this mucosal lining gets impacted, and then boom, these toxins and what's called these lipopolysaccharides, which are basically dead cells, dead cell parts, they cause our immune system to fire. And then we have all these what's called cytokines, and boom, there's your inflammation. So the goal is to seal up this little single cell layer of our epithelial lining, our gut lining, and make sure this mucosal barrier, which is really important, stay intact. And then everything that we ingest or come in contact with in our environment can stay in this little donut, and out our colon versus coming into our bloodstream. So, fun fact, 2 years after a single dose of antibiotics, our microbiome is not back to normal. I'm going to say that again. 2 years after a single dose of antibiotics, our microbiome is not back to normal. So you saw my scalp. I had to go to urgent care. They gave me amoxicillin for my prescription and corticosteroids. So I took 4 days worth of amoxicillin while I was in the islands because I thought it was an ear infection. And so I wanted to get on a plane and get off the islands and get back to the mainland. Well, come to find out that amoxicillin is actually made from penicillium, which is mold. So not only was I systemically infected with fungus, a single cell, fungus, Malaysia, but I was now eating more fungus, very concentrated amounts and an antibiotic, and taking corticosteroids, which was basically taking this gut junction and making it wide and allowing, causing leaky gut. So we willingly ingest antibiotics from cattle, from chicken, from pork, and farm-raised fish. And so we really need to keep this wall. We can't have any more breaches on this wall. So stress will cause the leaky gut, gluten will cause a leaky gut, and excessive LPS, which is these, like I mentioned, these basically they're cell parts that get through and cause our immune system to go crazy. So intestinal permeability, which is leaky gut, is now how the autoimmune spectrum will begin and affects every genetic weakness that you have. So in this course, I'm going to show you first how to dump your toxic bucket. know where the inflammation's coming from, the mold, arsenic, the pesticides, the phthalates, the environmental toxins, the nutrient deficiencies. And then we're going to seal this leaky gut because 80% of adults in the US are believed to have some level of this intestinal permeability. And then we're going to make sure that we seal up this gut at the end so that you can roll back all these issues related to LPS. This is from Kieran Kirshner. He is in my field like the microbiome guy. And in his training, I saw this slide and I was like, holy cow. So LPS is related to all of these conditions. That's that leaky gut. All right, so let's see what time it is. Oh my gosh, perfect timing. So what size is your bucket? Do you have a big toxic bucket? Do you have a small toxic bucket? And who needs to repair their gut health? If you've got these symptoms, you'll need to repair it. So you can go be like Kim, who was unfortunately exposed to airborne mold in her condo in Solana Beach. And thankfully, after our course and working with a provider, she's now stepping into 2025 with health and happiness, and just saw her like 3 weeks ago, and she's doing great. And we do have a prior a course attendant on our call, so I'm going to have, if Regan, if you're still around, I'd love to hear from you too. So this is the first thing you want to do is missing your first step in your autoimmune gut brain or autoimmune issues is to dump your toxic bucket and then restore the leaky gut and brain connections. So I'm going to like make this easy for you. If you're still overwhelmed or you want to learn more about my program, hang tight because I've got some information for you and it will take just about 5 minutes. So the idea is to have the peace and the energy to hang out with people that you love and feel like $1,000,000. And so this is my program. It's 6 steps. You go through and you seal your gut. It's an online program with live trainings with me on Mondays and Q&As on Fridays with recorded lessons and coaching. And then you get your genetic report where you find out if you have a small toxic bucket or a big one, which are your 3 food sensitivities for gluten, for caffeine, and for dairy. You get a one-on-one session with me to go over your lab reports. You get this sent to your door. And then you get to